I once thought my life was perfect, a wealthy husband, a dream home, and plans for a beautiful family. But on our anniversary, as I was arranging the roses he gave me, he handed me divorce papers and said, "You're useless." That night, under the cold rain, I drove away from the mansion I once called home, carrying a shattered heart, and a secret he never saw coming. I was pregnant with twins. Hi, my name is Isabella Bella Hayes. Before I share my entire stormy journey with you, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you've ever faced a shock that nearly broke you. Trust me, you're going to want to hear what happens next. The slap came out of nowhere. One moment, I was arranging the anniversary roses in our kitchen vase, humming to myself about the adoption paperwork tucked safely in my study. The next, my cheek burned with the sting of Nathaniel's palm, and the crystal vase shattered against Italian marble. Red petals mixing with glass shards like some twisted metaphor for what was happening to my life. "You've made me a laughingstock." Nate's voice cut through the ringing in my ears. "A useless woman who can't even give me an heir." I blinked, trying to process. Behind him, Victoria Carrington stood in her Chanel suit, lips pursed in that familiar expression of disdain. My mother-in-law had witnessed everything and hadn't moved a muscle to stop it. "Nate," my voice came out smaller than I intended. This was the man who'd sworn to love me forever on the shores of Lake Travis just 5 years ago. The man whose baby I'd desperately wanted to carry. Whose legacy I'd tried so hard to continue despite what the fertility doctors said. He thrust papers at me. Divorce papers, already signed on his side. "The lawyers will contact you about the settlement. I suggest you don't contest it." His gray eyes, once warm as August rain, were winter ice. "Pack your things tonight. Security will escort you out by morning." My legs wobbled. 5 years of marriage, of building our architectural firm together, of charity galas and society luncheons where I'd smiled until my face hurt, all of it crumbling in the space between heartbeats. "But tomorrow's our anniversary," I whispered stupidly, as if that mattered now. Victoria finally spoke, her voice silk over steel. "My son will be announcing his engagement next week, to someone more suitable." The room tilted. I gripped the counter, feeling blood from a glass cut trickle down my palm. They'd planned this. While I'd been researching adoption agencies and planning surprise anniversary gifts, they'd been plotting my removal like renovating an outdated bathroom. I didn't cry. Not then. I walked upstairs on autopilot, grabbed the Louis Vuitton luggage set Nate had given me for my 30th birthday, and started packing. Designer clothes went in mechanically. The life of Isabella Carrington folding away into neat compartments. But Bella Hayes, the girl from small-town Texas who'd thought she'd won the lottery when Nathaniel Carrington noticed her at that architecture conference, she was screaming inside. The rain started as I loaded my car. Fitting, really. I sat in my BMW, engine running, watching the house I'd helped design blur through water-streaked windows. My wedding ring caught the security lights, the 2-carat diamond mocking me with its promises. I yanked it off, leaving an indent in flesh that had worn it faithfully for 5 years. "How did I go from senior design director to discarded wife in one evening?" I asked the empty car. Thunder answered, drowning out whatever explanation the universe might have offered. "I drove away from the lake house, from my life, from everything I thought I knew about love and security." Behind me, the Carrington estate glowed like a beacon of all I'd lost. Ahead, the rain-slicked highway stretched into darkness. I'd thought I had it all. Turns out I'd had nothing at all. The apartment in East Austin smelled like mildew and broken dreams. At $600 a month, it was all I could afford after Nate's lawyers had frozen our joint accounts, pending divorce proceedings. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd designed million-dollar homes, and now I lived in a studio where the kitchen sink doubled as the bathroom vanity if you really squinted. 3 weeks into my new life as a pariah, I understood Victoria's reach. Every architecture firm in Austin had suddenly restructured with no openings. My reputation, built over 7 years of innovative designs and sustainable development awards, had been reduced to whispers about professional impropriety and difficult to work with. "I'm sorry, Ms. Hayes," the latest interviewer said, not meeting my eyes. "We've decided to go in a different direction." I stumbled out of another gleaming office building, the Texas sun hammering down like judgment. My hands shook as I fumbled for my keys. When had I eaten last? The crackers from yesterday? Everything blurred together in a haze of rejection and dwindling bank balance. The dizzy spell hit at the crosswalk. 1 second I was upright, the next my knees buckled. The pavement rushed up, but strong hands caught me before I hit. "Easy there," a gentle voice with a slight accent. Brown eyes filled with concern. "Let's get you out of this heat." The emergency room at St. David's was blessedly cool. The doctor who'd caught me, his badge read Dr. Adrian Singh, Neurology, had insisted on bringing me in himself. "Dehydration," I mumbled. "Stress, I'm fine. Let's make sure." His voice carried the kind of warmth I'd forgotten existed. "When's the last time you saw a doctor?" Before I could answer, the nurse returned with test results. Her face had that careful expression medical professionals perfect when delivering unexpected news. "Ms. Hayes, your blood work shows elevated HCG levels. You're pregnant." She paused. "With twins?" The world stopped. Impossible. The fertility specialists had been clear. My chances were less than 2%. Nate and I had tried for 3 years before giving up, before he'd started looking at me like defective merchandise. "There must be a mistake," I whispered. "No mistake," the nurse said gently. "About 7 weeks along. But I need to be honest. You're showing signs of potential complications. Twin pregnancies are always high risk, and with your stress levels..." Dr. Singh reappeared with water and crackers. "One step at a time," he said, his presence oddly calming. "Do you have someone to call? Family?" I almost laughed. Family? My parents had died in a car accident when I was 22. Nate's family had made their position clear. Friends? They'd all chosen sides, and I wasn't the Carrington with the money. "No," I said simply. He frowned, but didn't push. "You need prenatal care immediately. There's a clinic on the east side that works with women in difficult situations. I volunteer there sometimes." He scribbled an address. "Tell them I sent you." After he left, I sat in the hospital bathroom, hand on my still flat stomach. Twins? Nate's children growing inside the body he'd declared useless? The bitter irony of it made me want to scream. I tried calling him that night. His assistant answered. "Mr. Carrington isn't available." "Tell him it's important. Tell him..." "Ms. Hayes, I have explicit instructions. If you don't leave the premises of Carrington Industries immediately, security will escort you out." The line went dead. I set the phone down carefully, afraid if I moved too fast I'd shatter like that anniversary vase. Outside, a couple walked by laughing, and I watched them disappear into the night. "You chose to abandon us," I whispered to my belly, "but I choose to stay." The storm hit Austin the night I went into labor. 7 months should have been safe territory, but my twins had other plans. The cramping started during my shift at the diner. Because, yes, a master's in architecture meant nothing when you're serving coffee at 2 a.m. to make rent. "You okay, honey?" Marge, the night manager, peered at me with concern. I gripped the counter as another wave hit. I think something's wrong." The next hours blurred into a nightmare of screaming sirens, hospital lights, and doctors speaking an urgent medical code. 28 weeks. Too early. Much too early. "We need to deliver now," someone said. "Both babies are in distress." Through the haze of pain medication, I remember begging. "Please, they're all I have. Please save them." Then darkness. I woke to the sound of machines beeping. The NICU was a foreign planet of incubators and wires, tiny beings who looked more like baby birds than human infants. My sons, Liam and Aiden, I'd already decided, each weighed less than 3 pounds. "They're fighters," the NICU nurse said softly, "but it's going to be a long road." I pressed my palm against the incubator glass, watching Aiden's chest rise and fall with mechanical precision. So small, so fragile. The wedding ring indent had finally faded from my finger, replaced by the hospital bracelet marking me as their mother. "I'm here," I whispered. "Mommy's here." The bills started arriving before I even left the hospital, 6 figures and climbing. The social worker explained payment plans with the kind of practiced sympathy that came from delivering bad news daily. "I'll figure it out," I said, signing papers that might as well have been written in Sanskrit. Back in my moldy apartment, I'd just settled the boys, finally discharged after 6 weeks, when a knock interrupted. My neighbor Sam stood there, a steaming pot in his weathered hands. "Soup," he said simply in accented English. "My Elena's recipe. God rest her soul." Sam Alvarez was 73, Cuban, and had lived next door for 40 years. He'd never spoken to me before beyond basic pleasantries. Now he stood in my doorway like some guardian angel in a cardigan. "Thank you," I managed, throat tight. He studied me with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "You're the architect, the one they threw away." I flinched. "I was a lawyer once," he continued. "Before the revolution, before we lost everything." "You want to know what I learned?" I nodded, desperate for any wisdom that might make sense of my life. "If you want to beat them, learn the law. It's the only thing that makes powerful men bow their heads." He left the soup and a business card for a paralegal program. I stared at it while my babies slept, their tiny bodies finally free of tubes and wires but still so vulnerable. 3 months later, I hit rock bottom. The eviction notice came on a Tuesday. By Thursday, I was sitting in the bus station at 3 a.m., 2 car seats beside me, trying to look invisible. Liam was crying, hungry, always hungry, and I was down to my last can of formula. That's when the envelope appeared on the bench beside me. Cash. Not much, but enough. A note was tucked inside. "For your boys. Someone once did this for me." I looked around the empty station. No one. Just fluorescent lights humming their lonely song and my babies needing me to be stronger than I knew how to be. I used the money for a deposit on a worse apartment, but one that would take us. That night, holding my sons in a twin nursing pillow I'd bought secondhand, I made a decision. "We're going to make it," I told them. Aiden's hand wrapped around my pinky, impossibly small, but surprisingly strong. "I don't know how, but we're going to make it." Outside, Austin glittered with lights from homes I'd never design, lives I'd never live. But in that moment, in that terrible apartment with my miracle boys, I felt something I hadn't experienced since that slap in the kitchen. Hope. The acceptance letter from the Moms-in-Law Scholarship Program arrived on Liam's first birthday. I read it 3 times, certain I was hallucinating from sleep deprivation. Full tuition for the accelerated night program at St. Edward's University. Sam's doing, though he'd never admit it. "You did this," I accused him over coffee while the boys napped. He shrugged, stirring sugar into his cafecito. "I made a phone call. You did the rest. Your essay about justice and motherhood, it moved them." Law school while raising twins should have been impossible. It nearly was. My days blurred into a punishing routine. 5 a.m. wake up, feed boys, drop them at the subsidized daycare that smelled like bleach and good intentions, rush to my job at the women's shelter, race to evening classes, study until 2 a.m. with textbooks propped against breast pump bottles. I dozed off during criminal procedure, jerking awake when the professor called my name. "Ms. Hayes, perhaps you could share your thoughts on Miranda rights?" Snickers rippled through the classroom. The girl next to me, 22, fresh-faced, probably never missed a meal to buy diapers, whispered loud enough for everyone to hear, "Guess leaving a rich husband doesn't automatically make you lawyer material." I straightened, running on spite and caffeine. Miranda ensures that even the powerless understand their rights when facing systemic authority. It levels the playing field between those with resources and those without. I met her eyes. "Some of us know that difference intimately." The professor nodded approvingly. The girl shut up. But the worst moments came in private. Aiden's first ear infection had me sobbing in the ER at midnight, constitutional law notes scattered across the waiting room floor. The fever wouldn't break, and I had an exam in 6 hours. "Mommy's sorry," I whispered, rocking him. "Mommy's so sorry she can't fix this faster." A familiar voice cut through my despair. "Bella?" Dr. Singh stood there in scrubs, looking like he'd just finished a long shift. He took in the scene. Sick baby, exhausted mother, law books everywhere, and something shifted in his expression. "Let me help," he said simply. He wasn't on duty, but he stayed anyway. "Got Aiden seen faster," explained the prescription in terms I could understand through my fog. When I fumbled for my wallet, knowing the copay would mean ramen for a week, he quietly handled it. "Why?" I asked. "Because everyone needs help sometimes," he said. "And because I remember the woman who chose to stay when everyone else left." We started meeting occasionally after that, coffee when our schedules aligned, which wasn't often. He never pushed, never assumed, just existed in my orbit like a steady planet while my world spun chaotically. The bar exam approached like a freight train. I studied with flashcards taped to the bathroom mirror, recited case law while pushing swings at the park. The boys, now 3, had their own version of reasonable doubt, that mostly involved whether cookies counted as breakfast food. "Mommy's a lawyer," Liam announced to everyone at daycare, even though I hadn't passed yet. "Almost," I corrected, but he shook his head stubbornly. "Mommy's a lawyer," he insisted, and Aiden nodded in solemn agreement. Exam day. 3 years of sacrifice condensed into 8 hours of questions. My hand cramped. My mind buzzed. But every time I faltered, I pictured my boys' faces, Sam's quiet faith, Adrian's steady presence, the woman who'd left that envelope when I had nothing. 6 weeks later, the results arrived. I stood in my kitchen, still cramped, still smelling faintly of mold, and stared at the letter. Pass. The boys were painting at their tiny table, making a glorious mess. I sank to the floor, letter clutched to my chest, and sobbed. Not the broken tears of that night in the rain, but something else entirely. Release, joy, vindication. "Mommy sad?" Aiden toddled over, paint-covered hands reaching for my face. "No, baby." I laughed through the tears, pulling both boys close. "Mommy's happy. Mommy's a lawyer now." They cheered and danced, not understanding, but celebrating anyway. We'd made it to the first summit. The mountain still loomed, but for now, we'd earned this view. That night, I framed my bar admission certificate with dollar store supplies and hung it on our water-stained wall. It looked perfect. My law office occupied a corner of a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparer. Hayes Family Law, painted on the window in simple letters. No marble lobbies or leather chairs, just secondhand furniture and a coffee maker that worked half the time. But it was mine, built on sleepless nights and stubborn faith. Word spread through the east side like wildfire. The lawyer who'd been where they were, who understood custody battles weren't just about legal precedent, but about choosing between gas money and filing fees. My clients paid what they could, sometimes cash, sometimes homemade tamales, once a transmission repair from a mechanic fighting for his kids. 7 years had passed since that night in the rain. The boys were tall for 5. Liam with Nate's gray eyes and stubborn chin. Aiden with my dark hair and thoughtful nature. They did homework at my desk while I worked, their presence both my anchor and my sail. Then she walked in. Rebecca Carrington, née Williams. Nate's cousin's wife, though I'd never met her at those family gatherings I'd been carefully excluded from. Blonde, polished, carrying a Birkin bag that cost more than my annual rent. "I need a divorce lawyer," she said, then recognized me. The blood drained from her face. "Oh God, you're Isabella." "Bella," I corrected. "And your family to them. I can refer you to—" "No." She gripped her bag tighter. "That's why I need you. You're the only one who's ever won against them." I hadn't won. I'd survived. There's a difference. But I listened as she outlined years of emotional abuse, financial control, isolation. The Carrington playbook, refined and perfected. "He's just like Nathaniel," she whispered. "Victoria trained them both." Against my better judgment, I took the case. The mediation was scheduled at Carrington Industries. Walking into that building felt like entering a time machine. Same marble, same abstract art, same security guard who used to smile at me. He didn't recognize me now. Then the conference room doors opened, and there he was. Nathaniel Carrington at 38 was still devastating. Harder now, silver threading his temples, but those eyes, God, those eyes still had the power to stop my heart. They swept over me, dismissed me, then snapped back. "Isabella?" "Counselor Hayes," I corrected, setting out my files with steady hands. He stared. I stared back. 7 years collapsed into seconds. The muscle in his jaw ticked exactly the way it used to when he was processing something unexpected. Then his gaze caught the photo frame I'd placed on the table. My boys, our boys, though he didn't know it. The resemblance was undeniable if you looked. Liam's eyes, Aiden's nose, him and me, combined and improved. Victoria swept in before he could speak, still regal in St. John knit despite the cane she now used. Her eyes narrowed to slits when she saw me. "You." Venom dripped from the single word. "How dare you show your face in our— Mrs. Carrington." I stood, 7 years of rage crystallizing into professional ice. "I'm here as Rebecca's attorney. Shall we begin?" The mediation was brutal. Rebecca's lawyer, me, picked apart their financial manipulations with surgical precision. Every hidden asset, every controlling move, laid bare. I was brilliant because I'd lived it. I knew where they hid the bodies because mine had been buried in the same ground. "This is ridiculous," Victoria spat during a break. "You're nothing but a vindictive bitch trying to—" "Mom," Nate's voice cut sharp. He was still staring at the photo. Then Rebecca's phone rang. Her lawyer, their family attorney, speaking loud enough for everyone to hear. "The boys' birth certificates you requested? Twins, born 7 months after the Hayes divorce? Father unlisted, but—" She dropped the phone. The room exploded. Rebecca shrieking about betrayal and hidden children, Victoria demanding explanations, other attorneys scrambling for damage control. And in the center of the hurricane, Nate and I locked eyes across the battlefield of our past. "Twins?" His voice cracked. "Bella, are they—" I packed my files with deliberate calm. "My clients need a recess. We'll resume tomorrow." I walked out, spine straight, boy's photo clutched to my chest. Behind me, the Carrington empire shook on its foundations. Ahead, my children waited for their mother to come home and help with fractions. The storm had returned, but this time I was the thunder. The Austin Convention Center glittered like a jewel box. 500 of Texas's legal elite gathered for the annual Justice for Families gala. I'd bought my gown at a consignment shop, black silk that had probably graced better parties in its previous life. But tonight wasn't about fashion. Tonight was about standing in the same room as them without flinching. "And now," the MC's voice boomed, "the Advocate of the Year Award. This attorney has provided pro bono services to over 200 domestic violence survivors, revolutionized custody proceedings for marginalized families, and built a practice that serves as a lifeline for those society overlooks. Please welcome Bella Hayes." The spotlight found me at table 47. The cheap seats, naturally. As I stood, my eyes swept the room and landed on them. Front and center, the Carrington table. Nate in his tuxedo, Victoria despite her illness, Rebecca, now his fiancée, the irony thick as molasses, and half of Austin society. I walked to that stage like I was walking to war. Every step measured, every breath calculated. The whispers followed. "That's her, the ex-wife. Heard she has his children. Can you imagine the scandal?" The microphone waited. 500 faces turned toward me. I found Nate's eyes in the crowd and held them. "7 years ago, I lost everything," I began, my voice carrying clear and strong. "My home, my career, my identity as Mrs. Nathaniel Carrington. I was told I was useless, worthless, a woman who couldn't fulfill her purpose." Victoria's face had gone pale. Good. But here's what I learned sleeping in bus stations with infant twins, studying law while working 3 jobs, building something from nothing. I paused, letting the silence stretch. Women are not property. We are not defined by our ability to breed or our value at charity auctions. We are defined by our refusal to stay down when the world knocks us flat. The applause started scattered, then swelled. I saw allies in unexpected faces. Judges who'd watched me argue, opposing counsel who'd learned to respect my preparation, clients who'd become friends. This award belongs to every woman who's been told she's not enough, who's been discarded when she became inconvenient, who's chosen to forge her crown from the ashes of what tried to destroy her. I raised the crystal trophy. "We see you. We stand with you. And we will not be silenced." Standing ovation. Even Rebecca clapped, tears streaming down her perfect makeup. Nate sat frozen, staring like he was seeing me for the first time. Maybe he was. I left the stage and headed for the bathroom, needing a moment to breathe. The universe had other plans. Victoria Carrington lay crumpled on the marble floor, her breathing shallow and rapid. Without thinking, I knelt beside her, cradling her head. "Someone call 911, I ordered, my voice cutting through the gathering crowd's panic. Her eyes fluttered open, focusing on me with difficulty. "You," she whispered. "Don't try to talk," I said, but she gripped my hand with surprising strength. "The journal," she gasped. "My desk. Read it. You deserve to know." The paramedics arrived, whisking her away. Nate appeared in the doorway, face ashen. "Is she alive?" I said. "But you should go with her." He hesitated. "Bella, we need to talk. About the boys, about everything." "Not tonight," I said firmly. "Tonight, you focus on your mother." 3 days later, a package arrived at my office. Victoria's journal, delivered by her personal attorney with a note. "She insisted you have this. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. She wanted you to understand. I read it that night after the boys were asleep. Page after page of careful script, dating back 40 years. A young Victoria, pregnant and abandoned by Nate's father. The shame. The fight for survival in Austin's unforgiving society. How she'd clawed her way to respectability, vowing her son would never face that rejection. The entries about me started hopeful. Nathaniel's girlfriend has potential. Then worried. The fertility issues concern me. Finally, cruel. She's making him weak, making him a laughingstock. I won't let him suffer as I did. The final entry was dated yesterday. I created the very pain I sought to prevent. Bella Hayes is who I could have been if I'd been brave enough to forge my own crown instead of stealing others. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her she won. I closed the journal, tears falling for the woman Victoria might have been. The pain that had twisted her into someone cruel. Hurt people hurt people. The oldest truth in the world. My phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. Saw the news about your award. So proud of you. Coffee tomorrow? Yes, I typed back. Life was moving forward, ready or not. Tomorrow I'd face whatever came next. Tonight, I'd forged my crown in front of everyone who'd tried to break me. And it was beautiful. Mom, who's our dad? Aiden asked it over breakfast cereal, casual as discussing the weather. Liam looked up from his bowl, equally curious. 7 years old and full of questions I'd dodged until now. I set down my coffee carefully. Why do you ask, sweetheart? Jake's dad coaches our soccer team, Liam said. Marcus's dad helps with homework. We just wondered. My boys, so matter-of-fact about the father-shaped hole in their lives. I'd prepared for anger, for tears, not this gentle curiosity that somehow hurt worse. Would you like to know about him? I asked. They nodded in unison, and I made a decision that would change everything. Okay, here's what we'll do. You can write him a letter with your questions, whatever you want to know, and we'll see if he writes back. They spent 3 days crafting it, arguing over every word with the seriousness of Supreme Court justices. The final version, in Liam's careful printing with Aiden's illustrations, broke my heart. Dear Father, we are Liam and Aiden Hayes. We are 7. Our mom says you are our biological dad. We have questions. 1. Why did you leave Mom? 2. Do you have any genetic diseases we should know about? 3. Do you like baseball? We love the Rangers. 4. Are you sorry? From your sons, maybe. I stared at that maybe for a long time before sliding the letter into an envelope addressed to Nathaniel Carrington. 3 weeks passed. I'd almost given up when the response arrived, hand-delivered by courier. Expensive stationery, his familiar handwriting. My hands shook as I read it first, screening for anything that might hurt them. Dear Liam and Aiden, thank you for writing to me. To answer your questions. 1. I left your mother because I was a coward who listened to other people instead of my heart. It was the worst mistake of my life. 2. No genetic diseases. Though your grandfather had high blood pressure, your grandmother recently passed from cancer. 3. I love baseball. I have season tickets to the Rangers and have never missed opening day. 4. Sorry isn't big enough for what I feel. Regret, maybe, or devastation. I missed your first words, first steps, first everything because I was too stupid to see what mattered. If your mother allows it, I would like to meet you, not as your father. I haven't earned that title, but as someone who wants to know the amazing boys you've become. There's something else you should know. The company I inherited, the one I thought was everything, is gone. Bankrupt due to financial crimes my mother hid for decades. I'm starting over, like your mother did. Maybe that's justice. Maybe it's just life. Nathaniel Carrington. P.S. Your mother is the strongest person I've ever known. Listen to her. Learn from her. She'll teach you to be better men than I've been. I read it to them that night, editing nothing. They listened solemnly, processing with the emotional intelligence children develop when life comes at them early. He sounds sad, Aiden said finally. Can we meet him? Liam asked. Just to see? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Adrian's name lit the screen. Bella, I need to tell you something, he said without preamble. About us, about what I hope we could be. I stepped onto the porch, watching my boys through the window as they debated their father's letter. Adrian, let me finish. I've waited 7 years, been your friend, your support. I've loved those boys like my own. But I need to know, is there room in your life for something more? Or will it always be his shadow between us? Inside, Liam was showing Aiden something in the letter, both their heads bent together. My heart pulled in too many directions. I don't know, I said honestly, but you deserve better than uncertainty. What I deserve, Adrian said gently, is a chance. Let me take you to dinner. Just us. Let's see what we are without crisis holding us together. Okay, I whispered. Okay. The next morning brought another package. Sam's handwriting on a note. From Victoria's estate, she insisted. Inside, a safety deposit box key and a letter. Bella, the key opens box 472 at First National. Inside, you'll find what I stole from you. Not just money, but truth. Sam Alvarez was my lawyer 40 years ago. He helped me win custody of Nathaniel when his father tried to take him. I've been paying his rent ever since, my guilt for how I twisted the law to serve power instead of justice. He never knew you were my target when he befriended you. His kindness was real, as was his horror when he learned the truth. He wanted to tell you, but I threatened his immigration status. I'm dying as I write this, making amends too late, as cowards do. The boys deserve better than the legacy I've created. Use what's in the box to give them that. V. Carrington. I drove to the bank in a daze. The box contained $500,000 in bonds and a folder of documents showing every dirty trick Victoria had used to destroy me. Evidence that could have won me millions in court 7 years ago. I sat in my car, staring at enough money to change everything. Private schools for the boys, a real house, security, all from the woman who'd orchestrated my downfall. My phone buzzed. Adrian. Dinner tomorrow? I know a place that serves hope with a side of possibility. Then another text. Nate. The boy's letter changed everything. I know I have no right to ask, but please. Let me try to be something in their lives. Not what I should have been, but what I could still become. 7 years ago, I'd had no choices. Now I had too many. But as I drove home to my boys, to my cramped apartment with its water-stained walls and bar admission certificate, I realized something. This time I held all the cards. The question was how to play them. The mediator's office smelled like leather and reconciliation. Neutral ground for a conversation 7 years in the making. I arrived early, needing time to prepare for whatever came next. Nate walked in and stopped short. We'd seen each other at the gala, in court, but this was different. This was about our sons. Thank you for coming, he said. His usual commanding presence had dimmed, replaced by something I'd never seen before. Humility. I gestured to the chairs across from each other. The boys want to meet you, but first we need rules. He nodded, pulling out a legal pad like the corporate shark he'd always been. Old habits. No control, I began. No demands, no manipulation. You enter their lives on their terms, not yours. Agreed. No money without discussion. I won't have you buying their affection. I wouldn't. He stopped, remembering who he was talking to. Agreed. And therapy. Family counseling for all of us. They need to process this properly. Whatever they need, he said. Then quieter. Bella, can I ask something? I waited. That night, when you tried to call, were you trying to tell me? Yes. His face crumpled. 7 years of Carrington control shattered in seconds. Oh God, I threw you out while you were carrying. His voice broke entirely. Don't, I said sharply. This isn't about your guilt. It's about 2 boys who deserve better than our baggage. He composed himself with visible effort. You're right. Of course you're right. You always were, and I was too proud to see it. A knock interrupted. Adrian entered, and the temperature shifted. The 2 men sized each other up, past and possibility occupying the same space. I wanted Adrian here, I said. He's been part of the boys' lives. He needs to know what we decide. The next hour was delicate negotiation. Supervised visits building to unsupervised, baseball games, neutral territory the boys loved, slow integration, with the boys setting the pace. There's more, Nate said as we wrapped up. The bankruptcy revealed things. About my mother. About what she did to you. He slid a folder across the table. My lawyers say you could sue the estate for millions. Defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Fraud. I thought of the bonds in my apartment safe. The evidence Victoria had left. The ways I could destroy what remained of the Carrington name. I don't want your money, I said. It's not mine. It's justice. Justice? I laughed, but not unkindly. Justice was surviving. Justice was the bar exam. Justice was building something from nothing while you built nothing from something. Adrian's hand found mine under the table. Steady, warm, real. But the boys, Nate started. The boys have everything they need. A mother who fought for them. A man who stepped up when their father stepped out. I squeezed Adrian's hand. And now, if you prove yourself, maybe a father who learned from his mistakes. We agreed to meet the following Saturday at the park. Public, casual, safe. The week flew by in a blur of preparation and nerves. I accepted Adrian's dinner invitation, and over Indian food and honest conversation, felt something shift between us. Not the desperate passion I'd had with Nate, but something deeper. Something built on showing up when showing up was hard. I love you, Adrian said simply over mango lassi. Not because you need me, because you don't. I love you too, I realized, meaning it, because you waited until I could choose you instead of need you. Saturday arrived crisp and bright. The boys wore their Rangers jerseys, armor for meeting the stranger who shared their eyes. Nate waited by the playground, looking more nervous than I'd ever seen him in any boardroom. Boys, I said, this is Nathaniel, your biological father. They studied him with that direct child stare that misses nothing. You look like us, Aiden said finally. Or we look like you, Liam corrected. Genetics. Nate's laugh was shaky. You're right, both of you. They talked baseball. Safe ground. I watched from a bench, Adrian beside me, as my past and present navigated each other. The boys warming slowly, Nate earning each smile like a prize. He's trying, Adrian observed. Yeah, I agreed. 7 years too late, but trying. You know what I see? Adrian turned to face me fully. A woman who took a crown of thorns and transformed it into something beautiful. Who raised kings when she was treated like a servant. Who chose forgiveness when she had every right to choose revenge. He pulled out a small box. Not expensive. Not flashy. Perfect. Marry me, Bella. Not because you need saving. Because you've already saved yourself. Because I want to spend my life watching you reign. I looked at the ring. Simple. Honest. Like the life we'd build. Then at my boys, laughing at something Nate said. At the man who'd walked away from everything teaching the ones who'd walked toward it. Yes, I said. Yes to all of it. The ceremony was small. Sam walked me down the aisle, crying openly. The boys carried rings, arguing over who got to go first. Adrian's family filled one side. Warm, chaotic, immediately claiming the boys as their own. Nate sat in the back, invited at the boys' insistence. He smiled when I passed, genuine and sad. Rebecca beside him, her hand over her growing belly. Maybe they'd do better this time. Maybe we all would. 10 years ago, I said in my vows, I thought a crown was something given by others, bestowed by marriage or money or status. But real crowns, the ones that matter, we forge ourselves. In fires that should have destroyed us, from materials others threw away. I looked at my sons, my almost husband, my chosen family. This crown wasn't given. It was earned, bought with tears and built with hope. And nobody can take it away. Adrian kissed me as the sun set over Austin, painting the sky in shades of triumph. Somewhere, a younger me was crying in a BMW. Sure, her life was over. She was wrong. It was just beginning.
Life can break you in ways you never expect, but those cracks can become the path to your greatest strength. When others try to define your worth, remember, their opinion isn't your destiny. Stand tall, fight back, and build a life that proves them wrong. Your crown is forged, not given.